Hello and welcome, dear students. As you already know, that we are doing this very famous, optimistic, philosophical poem of Robert Browning, "The Last Ride Together." Now we've already completed stanza 7 till stanza 7, and we'll be starting with stanza 8 today. Now I'm reading the stanza in front of you. It's there in the video, in the text. You can just go through it, and then I'll be explaining you the eighth stanza. And you, great sculptor, so you gave a score of years to art, her slave, and that's your Venus. Whence we turn to yonder girl that fonts the burn. You acquiesce, and shall I repine? What man of music, you grown grey, with notes and nothing else to say? Is this your sole praise from a friend? Greatly his operas strain intent, but in music we know how fashions end. I gave my youth, but we write in fine. So, in the previous stanza, the lover here he talks about a poet. He gives a reference about a poet and a sculptor. And he says that the poet who writes wonderful verses, beautiful poetry, in spite of all the power which he gives to his expressions. And what does he express in his poetry? He expresses beauty, he expresses fascination. So, he says a poet who dedicates his complete life in writing verses, in writing beautiful poems, in appreciating the beauty of nature. He is unable to attain and possess the beauty for which he is always craved. So he says the poet is not able to feel, he is not able to attain anything, whatever he is doing and whatever he is writing. Now, here he also talks about the limitations of the sculptor and the musicians respectively. He also talks about the sculptor. He says that we can say here that none other poet than Browning ever valued and appreciated arts, music, and sculpture more than him. So, Browning was a poet who was not only we can say that he is not only talking about the philosophy of life and the kinds of optimism that is being depicted in his poetry. He also talks about the way he appreciates various kinds of arts, whether it could be music, whether it could be sculpture, whether it could be poetry. The sculptor devoted, as the poet says here, 20 years of his art. He was a slave to his art, and as a result of his great devotion, he created the statue of Venus. Venus, you know, is the goddess of love and beauty. Now, the statue that the sculptor created, he worked so hard over the statue for many, many years, for almost 20 years. And this statue, it surpasses the look at a young girl who's crossing the shallow rivulet. Now, what the comparison here is, it is suggested here that as the poet wants to say, no matter how attractive the statue of Venus, who's the goddess of love and beauty, is was created by the sculptor. No matter how beautiful the statue is, no matter how attractive and fascinating the statue is, if a young girl passes through that place or through the sight of anybody, then the breathing lively young maid appears more attractive and draws everyone's attention compared to the statue. So here, the philosophy of Browning indicates the difference between liking an animate thing and liking an inanimate thing. So the beauty of real lively reality cannot beat the artist's inanimate statue of Venus. Okay, the statue will always be a statue, and a lively girl will always be a lively one. So he questions further here that whether people agree to this notion that beauty in life is superior to a mere work of art. Yes, of course, a work of art also is beautiful, but it doesn't have life. So, in other words, we can say that the art which is lifeless is less superior to an art which is full of life. The lover here exhibits his ecstasy in abundance by saying that his beloved is in flesh and blood superior to the most fabulous lifeless creations of Venus. Now, the lover is what happened? Lover is comparing his beloved to the young, lively girl, and he's saying that my beloved also is in flesh and blood. She is so lively and attractive, and she is there with me this time. So he says that she is far, far beautiful, fabulous than the statue of Venus. which was created after so much of hard work by the sculptor. Now, Browning turns to the musicians. He talks about the plight of the musicians, the condition of the musicians. He says, the poet says, the musician has turned gray haired in creating musical notes and talking about the language of music throughout their life. The life of a musician has been of long labor. The only praise that he got from his friend is the music of his opera is certainly ambitious. But it tries to express the noble ideas, but musical fashions or styles never come to stay. He says music always keeps on changing, it never stays at one place, it's never stagnant. So the fashions in music always change. So here he says that whatever today we regard as great will not be regarded in the near future. So the lover here compares his present condition to that of the musician and the sculptor and the poet, and he says that all these three gave away their youth, their vitality, their energy, their life for the pursuit of love, their love. Like the musician's love was music, the poet's love was poetry, and the sculptor's love was for creating statues. He says, but he too courted the love of this woman who rejected him. So the lover had been courting this woman. The lover has been courting the beloved for a very, very long time. But every time he was rejected by the beloved whom he madly loved. But the lover now feels that he got his reward. At least he was successful enough to get a reward, that at least she gave the consent, she gave the permission to the lover for a last ride together with him. So he says that he has got the reward. Finally, at least all his hard work has paid, that he could get a chance to have a last ride with his beloved, to spend some time with him, some quality time with him. But the musician, the poet, and the sculptor couldn't even get this reward. So I think there is a height of optimism in this stanza. We'll continue the next stanza in the next class. Thank you.